All right, shalom. I'm glad to be here with my sister Light. Been knowing you since 2004, right?
4.
Yeah, and so this sister has been a blessing to me in a major way, praying for me. When I first heard you rhyme, when I used to produce music, I literally was blown away by her. Like, yo, like, who is she? You know. And ever since then, I just appreciated how the Most High was using you to impact so many people, especially during that time when female MCs weren't getting the credit they deserve.
Right.
And so, and then since then, recently, people have been blown away by, many don't know it was a rap.
No.
You know what I mean? But I think it's spoken word and how you spoken to me at the release party for Cry Like a Man. And so that's been a blessing. I just wanted to talk with you real quick because we have a lot of phone conversations.
Oh my God.
So sis, you said something to me on the phone, and I said, you know what? You're going to have to say that again, but when we're on the podcast. You know the work I do with men, helping them break free from what I call emotional incarceration. Right. And so many men are terrified of taking the Superman cape off, that same cape that strangles men to death, that takes the life out of us, that stops us from really basically being vulnerable when we need to be weak, when we need to rest in the arms or the bosom, like Solomon talks about, of our wives. Mm-hmm. We fear showing them that side of us, the human side of us. And you said something that struck me about whoever your husband is, when he comes, he has to leave that cape at the door.
Got to leave the cape at the door.
Can you expound on that? And please pull the mic up close, because it was very profound. And I know men need to hear what you had said, but I believe our sisters really need to hear it as well, because I tell men all the time, I'm like, look, the same way we had to unlearn what the world taught us a man is, we have to give our women the same grace to unlearn what they've been taught a man is. And so comprehensive manhood requires you to be strong and sensitive, compassionate and courageous.
Right.
And so can you expound on why is it imperative for your husband to leave that cape at the door when he comes home? And how would you make him feel safe enough that he doesn't have to be Superman at home, but he can actually be Clark Kent?
One thing that I talk about a lot, this group right here that's with me, these are my sisters, for real. And you know how I am when it comes to relationship. My circle is real. Mm-hmm. And we talk, and I ask them, what does trust mean to you individually, so that me, as your friend and your sister, I know how to deal with you specifically, because trust means something different to everybody. And I know how to honor them with their level of what they expect from me as far as trust. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. I don't care what kind of relationship it is. And when I say trust means something different to everybody, I talk often about women. When we tell a man we trust them, we're talking about be faithful. I trust you to be faithful to me, that you won't go and cheat, you won't stray in the relationship or the marriage. And usually when men speak of trusting a woman, they're saying, I'm trusting you with my deepest, darkest secrets, my vulnerabilities. I feel like a failure today, or I don't know if I can do it. I don't feel strong. I'm not sure. And that you'll never take that and use it against me later. Mm-hmm. If it ever happens, he'll never trust her again. Mm-hmm. So a man coming in, I don't think it happens immediately for any man or anybody, but eventually you learn me as a safe place. Mm. I have to be that. You have to see, feel, like all your senses has to know that I'm a safe place for you, or I'll never get any of that vulnerability from you. You have a yearning to share and get that off you. I got to tell somebody, and you think the person you're in a relationship is the person you can do that with. And some people do it too soon, and then it is used against them. But when you find that my lap or my bosom is a safe place, then when you come in my house, you got to take your shoes off. People say, take your shoes off when you come in.
Right.
It's the same thing with that cape. You got to wear that for the world. I know you have to be strong. I know you have to be tough. You got to have it all together out there. But once you darken my doorstep, you don't have to be that. You can be vulnerable. You can be human. You can be yourself, relax, and be free to just be that man that we both know. I don't care about them outside, but what we know you are.
That's good. What would you tell women who are trying to, I get asked this a lot, how can I create that safe space? What could I be doing that makes him not trust me enough to be vulnerable? I have my take on it, but I always love hearing when women who give their men that space to be vulnerable, to be transparent. What would you suggest for women to do if they want to create that safe space for their husbands and truly get into a deeper relationship? Because to me, if a man has to continue to fake it around his wife or his significant other, you're really not in a relationship with him.
Right.
And so as long as he's guarded, you'll never really get to his heart. And I tell men that all the time, why is my wife holding back in the bedroom or doing this and doing that? I'm like, well, her heart is guarded. If you're boxing and the person has their guard up, they're not going to let you in.
Right.
The key thing is, why do they have their guard up?
Why?
Because you're hitting them. And that's what many men feel as well from the women in our lives. Is like, when I show you this side, you hit me. And I don't like being hurt.
Right.
And women, you can say the same. So what would you suggest for women who are really like sincerely seeking, like, I need to give my husband this space because I see him being only masculine, only the provider, the protector, only showing strength. I see it's really causing him to suppress those thoughts and those emotions that can make him what they would call toxic.
I think the beginning of it is healing. I think men and women, we just grow up, and the things that we internalize, some people don't even trust their parents with some of their deepest, darkest things. They don't know how. If there's never been a man in their life, they don't have other men that they can go to and open up, because then, am I going to get the whole, you're weak? Man, that's lame. Or am I going to get that response? And if it's the same as I'm never going to share anything with you again.
A friend of mine is in a relationship with someone, and he would say, you're not trying to catch me cheating, you're trying to catch your father cheating.
Wow.
And so when you talk about a woman finding healing so that she can even have the capacity to receive that side of her husband who really wants to show her that, that's a very good point, sis. Even with my wife, I remember one time when I was just breaking free. I started to break free from emotional incarceration, and it started caring for my mother when she had dementia. And you can only be so tough seeing your mother deteriorate right in front of you. Right. So I started learning how to cry openly, and then my heart started getting tender. And so one time we were in the car and I forgot what happened, and she had said, "You're the most emotional man I ever met." And she trying to creep in the door. Go on, come on in. I'm talking about you.
Come on. You ain't got to
just come on in. It's fine. So anyway, just close the door behind you. And so she had said that to me. And at that moment, when she said, "You're the most emotional man I've ever met in my life," I almost made a vow to never, ever be emotional again. But at that moment, I realized I'm not doing this for my wife. I'm not doing it for anyone else. I need to do this for myself.
Right.
And when you said women need to be healed, when I think of my wife and I don't want to say hell, that's too strong of a word, but the times that I caused her where our home wasn't peaceful.
Challenges.
The challenges, or just me being, again, when you're in emotional incarceration as a man, you got, what my friend compared it to, the crayon boxes. Remember, it was the 64?
Yes.
Then you had the 8.
Yep.
Men, we have the 8, the emotions. Women, you have a gamut of emotions you can pull from. So if I only know how to express my hurt through anger, that comes off as yelling. or you didn't do this, Nicole, or sometimes say, often it's never as good enough. You always would find the negative. And so that's some things I still live with as a man, like, maybe you just need to ride this one out instead of being negative. Mm-hmm. I say that to say is that the healing piece for a woman to deal with her own stuff, and then the man even to deal with his own stuff as well. But if we're both wounded, and that's what I was telling a friend of mine, that's what we're constantly fighting.
Yep.
Our counselor called us trigger happy.
Wow.
Literally, we would, to the very definition, she'll say one thing, I pull out mine, like, wait a minute, I know this, you said this, and it was just constant, boom, 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 and girls just want to have guns, and that was my wife, okay? And I was the man, you know what I mean? But we both weren't healed.
Right.
And so we would communicate from that pain.
Yeah.
And so as a woman, if you're hurting, and then here it is, your man, he's trying to finally become comprehensive and express himself. How do you, that's a lot of,
it is.
Specifically, I'm going to speak to this, a lot of Black women.
Yep.
Who are hurting and angry. So what would you tell a woman, like, okay, what can she do to even start that healing when here it is, her husband, he's trying to pour out so that he can heal as well, but there's still a lot of conflict there. What would you suggest?
Well, just like in shooting, that friendly fire, boy, because what they say, we hear it all the time, hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. And then you say, heal people heal people.
Yes.
And some people don't even know what they need healing from yet. A lot of it for women is their fathers. You need healed from the trauma of what your dad left, or the fact that he left, or did he touch you? It's a lot of things, and then they carry that. They want love, but they don't know how to open up for it. And men, same thing, but it's a different avenue. But we got the same issues, and then there's that big collide. I want to love so bad, but I got these things that's going on and behind, all of that's preventing. So therefore, all you end up with is sex. And that's not love. And most people really think that's it. That's why they go to bed before they get to know each other and find out 3 months later, I don't even like him.
Wow.
I don't like him, because it's comfort. It's, for some it's ecstasy, for others it's exercise. So
like that.
You feel me? So It just depends on what you need in that moment, what you give and what you allow yourself to receive. So sometimes the healing never comes, because although your idea of love with that person is not really love, you never heal because you're with the wrong person. But some people won't let you be who you are, because I need you. That's why healing is so important. I need you because I'm not whole. Therefore, I'm holding you back from becoming.
I can't expect my wife, for her bosom to be a safe space for me to cry on, and I don't give her the room to do the same, or show her how important she is to me, not by the words, but by being there. Yeah. I'll often tell Nicole, I say, you often hear successful men say, when they get their award, they'll say, I couldn't have got this without my wife. She was so supportive, this and that. She always had my back. And I would tell Cole, I'm like, I can't wait until I see more of that when women get to the podium.
Yeah.
And say, if not for my husband, right, I couldn't have healed. I couldn't have been here. Right. We always say, especially in our community, how the Black woman has supported us and been through all the years of adversity and injustice. And I'm like, okay, that's great. And I say, my brothers, I want you to heal, not just for yourself, which is why you start the journey, but you got to get to the place now where you have the capacity, where you lower all that you've suppressed. So now that your wife can talk to you, share her hurts. And then, or if you don't have the capacity or the knowledge, say, hey, babe, I paid for you to go to this conference, or you should go to this inner healing workshop and things like that. And again, it's the Superman cape when it comes in the home. Right. We can't turn it off. I have men who are literally losing their families because they do not want to cry in front of their wives.
Right.
They can't show them that side, and literally their families are falling apart.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say to a man like that guy that says, and married,
Mm-hmm.
or has a woman in his life that hopefully he will marry and he trusts her, but it's just something there where he says, I can't let you see my heart. I can't let you see the depression. That's why so many men hold off on marriage, because you can't fake it in the home.
Nope.
Your wife is going to see that you struggle at times with depression, that you got anxiety. It ain't always good.
Yep.
That you have a father wound or a mother wound.
Right.
That you struggle with confidence. That's why all of your suits are cut a certain way and you look a certain way. You got to talk this way in public at all times. So men fear them being seen,
right,
not as a superhero, but as just a regular man. What would you say to him? I mean, you've poured into me many times, like even when I do now, I want to do this. I do it because my heart for you young boys and men, I love that side.
It's your passion.
Yeah. But the lights and all this other stuff, if no one could see me do it, I'm just as fine.
I know. Yep.
For a man who is hiding, or the broken boy inside of him that needs healing, what would you say to him? And he has a wife that's welcoming. What would you say to him that would give him, I guess, the confidence to say, hey, okay, I'm going to share with her today that I was depressed or I was scared in this moment? Because at the end of the day, I tell women to look at the little boy inside.
Absolutely.
Because we're nurturers as men, but we can't touch women when it comes to nurturing.
Right.
And so I keep a picture of my wife in my phone when she was, how old were you on that picture, Nicole? 5?
Wow.
Because that was a time in her life when things weren't as smooth. And so it softens my heart for her, when she gets on my nerves, for instance. I'm just joking, yes. But for women, I suggest women do the same, is to get a picture of your husband
as a little boy,
or your boyfriend as a boy. And in that time, when he can share with you, say, hey, babe, give me a picture of a time in your life when you felt unloved, when you felt abandoned. Because if you know him and his father or his mother, can I get that picture? So if you were to talk to that little boy and just say your husband, who just say he's trying to break free from emotional incarceration, what would you say to that man who has that broken boy inside, who wants to cry, who's hurting and needs the nurturing that only can come from a woman? What would you say to him to help him drop his guard?
I wonder. I think each situation might be different, and the levels of vulnerability and the pain that he's been through. One thing that I would highly recommend is that he is connected to, which I would think if it's my husband, he would already be connected to at least one or surrounded by men that are strong, that he can connect with.
I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
All right. He's coming to you.
Okay.
Eve. He got his boys.
Okay.
I have friends too. It's only a certain level. It's this woman know more about me than any of all my boys combined.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So I know you're not married, but you've been in relationships. What would you say to him? He's coming to you.
I have a couple exercises. I won't go through them, but one of them, the purpose of it is for me to find out from him, almost like a game, what is your happiest moment without me? What is your lowest point without me in it? Like from whether it's a kid or whatever. And how did both of those make you feel? Where were you? What was happening when you were the happiest? Where were you and what was happening when you were the saddest? And if he can share that, he's probably going to venture into the whole thing. It's not going to be a story. It's not, well, it was this day my dad did this or someone. He's probably going to relive that. And that's what I need. because now that's going to give me the emotion. It's going to take him to that place. And y'all obviously already trust me, so that door is open. But now that helps me. I don't know if you don't share.
So that's an icebreaker.
Yes.
Which is good. Before that,
to get him to talk to me.
So the average marriage, just say there's been conflict. All right, we don't know how to communicate.
Right.
Okay, so it's not like it's all good. So we're both trying to get to where we both need to be. And he comes to you, and that's a great icebreaker. But even before that, he can't answer that because he's still guarded. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the door's not even open yet.
No, that's after the door open.
Okay.
And you probably can't even answer. I don't
that's
know.
why I said I'm not sure. It would depend. I really don't know that.
And then and I guess the emotion isn't there because you need that guy to be there. I guess for me, what I would say, and Nicole, I don't know if you could even comment to this. If you have something, you can get in this chair and I could put the mic on. I guess Nicole, since you've done it, come closer to the mic. Just want to make sure I got you good.
Okay.
Since you've helped me on my journey, for women who are listening, what would you say to them in regards to what they could do to help their husband start their healing journey, or to trust their wife or girlfriend with their heart so that they can heal and then eventually help their woman to heal?
From the woman's perspective, I think that we have to do something that's innately counterintuitive, which is to let go of the control of the situation. The control of the situation is the guard being up, not wanting to be hurt, right? And so in order to allow for your husband, your man, to open himself up, you have to be able to cross the line. And we talk about that a lot, right? It is a sacrificial and thing to do. It is a selfless act to cross the line in spite of, in spite of you potentially getting hurt, in spite of your needs not necessarily being met, in spite of you still having hurts and pains and things that you have to work through. It is being selfless to be able to listen and to not, take advantage of your man being vulnerable or what you may even consider as a weak moment for them. But that's a whole nother story of coming into, because a lot of women, when men start becoming vulnerable, we have been taught just through society and maybe even our upbringing that is a weakness, because we didn't see it in our fathers. We didn't see it in our brothers, right? Our uncles. We heard don't be no punk, don't, that kind of thing. And so when our man does it, it's like, what's up with them? But, it is a journey of understanding to understand that is when he is strongest.
Yes.
Right? To be able to be vulnerable and to be able to be transparent in their feelings and their emotions. From a male standpoint, what I would say to my brothers who want to be emotional and want to be transparent, and I've seen it, I've seen it on, even from some of your threads, Jay, from some of your posts, and I've seen men say, I'm not falling for that. Women will, use that, blank against you, that kind of thing. Well, the first thing I would say is then you got the wrong woman.
Got the wrong woman.
You do not have the right woman if that is the truth. But the second thing is that you certainly won't know unless you try.
That's good.
And so I think that blocking a woman the ability to do what she innately is made to do, which is nurture, which is heal,
Yep.
which is protect. That is what we're made to do. And so it's really a disservice to the man to not actually try to develop that relationship with his woman, because he's missing out on her essence.
What do you think about, either of you? How do you work through the bitterness? You know, here it is, you dealing with your stuff. And here it is, he's coming to you after just say 2 or 3 years of you crying out for him to listen to you. You know, how do you move through that? You know, because again, when me and Nicole, we talk about crossing this line, it's like, do I step over here and get hurt? I'm tired, she's tired, someone is in need. Do we both go without getting something?
Wow.
So who is willing to cross the line? How do you deal with that far as like bitterness? Like, you know, I hear, you know, a lot about women holding a lot back for the sake of the family, to keep it together. How do you navigate through that when a man is coming to you now for something you've been asking for years? Why are you looking at me like that?
No, I'm not looking at you like that, Jay.
I got the camera.
I know, look,
That's a rough place. That is such a very
rough place,
difficult place.
Sit up. So I want to make sure what you're going to say.
sorry.
But go ahead, like,
Yeah.
what you going to say something?
I was just saying that has to be tough. That piece, and also the component as far as the woman. What do I lose? A lot of women like being control freaks. You know, they like the control. But if my thoughts of you are you're only tough, the whole masculine, the false, the pseudo masculinity, you're tough, you're strong, you got it all together, and you're take charge and all that. If that's what you wear and you're allowed to wear that at home, that's all I see from you. I know there's another side, but that's all you show me. What do I lose when you're no longer all that and you want to be vulnerable?
How does that tie into your bitterness, though? Like,
well, if I'm already hurting and you're this strong force for me, even if I'm not getting it, I know you're that's who you are. That's the persona. Once you fold and become vulnerable, I no longer even have that. Okay, so now I'm really bitter because I'm losing. I want to help you, but not like this, because I'm losing.
I think that wow, that's so relevant. Like, that's really, really relevant. The bitterness is difficult to navigate unless there is a continued healing process with the wife or the woman from the female perspective. You are not able to release bitterness, release anger, release resentment without an inner healing work in yourself. And so for me, that's a God connection, right? That's him helping me to release, to forgive, to empathize, right? So that kind of goes back to what you were saying about the picture, and keeping in mind that we as individuals are not the collective of what we've done, right? We are who we are as beings. So from all of our experiences and from childhood, the traumas, the hurts, right? The little girl inside, the little boy inside. So to be able to empathize, right? And that's something that we've both done, Jay, and I have done with you, where when I hear, when I receive something that you've said or done that hurts me or triggers me, I have to empathize and think about the little Jay, right? The Jay that experienced something when you were a teenager, or maybe even something that you experienced last week, right? That I know, like, well, that probably was a result of that. So it did hurt me. However, I can sympathize, right, with that.
We often say what helped us a lot in conflict is that we know each other's intent is not to hurt each other.
Yeah, there's nothing malicious.
Yeah, once we agreed to, okay, good, we're going to agree that we're not trying to hurt each other, it gives us a quicker reset. Like typically we could go days without talking. That doesn't happen.
Right.
You know, may happen. If it does, it's just may have happened one time this year, maybe where we go a day or two. But when we were coming up in marriage early, it was bad.
Yeah.
You know, but when you really believe the intent of the woman or the man you're married with is not to hurt you, it makes it much easier for you to forgive them
and to receive what they're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's interesting. It's just a major issue for us healing between man and woman, and it's so complex. It's just because here it is, we coming together with all of these issues which we never really consider in marriage. Which we hear that we should have marriage counseling before we get married, but we really never told why. We just told they were like Bible studies to me, many of them.
Right.
But really, I believe you need to go through some intense therapy to unpack what you about to bring on this new trip. You know what I mean? And so I forgot to cut the LCD out, but it'll be fine. The color gonna change. But can you do me a favor? Can you just walk out there? That light will come right back on. I can just edit this piece out. I'll wait for you to do it. Go ahead. I forgot to leave that off. Just walk out. It should pick you up in a second. There you go.
Right.
Come on in. I meant to cut that off. That's why it looks that way on the camera, but it'll be fine. You can close it. It's good. Thank you. But it's really complex. And so let me ask you this last question. For men, it's a Superman cape that we wear around. What do women wear? What is something that women need to let go of that they know is not good, not for just their relationship, but for themselves? Like I know as a man, me trying to be strong 24/7, suppressing all my emotions, the hurts, the pain, not getting healing is not good for me at all. But I never hear women admit, what is the woman's cape? What do women wear in the world that they need to leave at the door when they come home? A cape?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. What kind? Okay. Well, what does a woman's cape look like? You're off mic. She said,
at him.
You got something? Do you guys know? I can. Go ahead.
You want to say it? Come on.
What does that cape look like for a woman that she should? As men, we know from what you're saying, we need to leave that cape at the door, and men, we can admit that as well. What does that cape look like for a woman? What should she leave at the door?
Only reason why I said cape is because there are a lot of single parents, single women that's taking care of their children. And even if the husband is present in the household, you still have to make sure that once you come in, leave all that out. I mean, we might want to nag about the man about, oh, you keep trying to keep the cape on in the house and, this is supposed to be your safety net or whatever. Because I went through that with my husband. He was the breadwinner of the family. He was a professional boxer. And it came to a point where you guys talked about bitterness earlier. And I was bitter because I was ready for him to retire in boxing, but the outside world wanted him to keep boxing. So he decides to keep training and everything, and he goes over to New Zealand. But when he came back, he was never the same. So I had a cape on 24/7.
Right.
So what? Lean in a little more. I'll make sure I got you in the camera. What was that cape?
Emotional.
What? That's okay. It's good. That's what that's what this space is for.
is.
So scoot over a little bit, Nicole, and make sure I got it. Well, you can't because of the cords, but just lean in. We close. It's okay. That's what we're here for. All right. So what was the cape? What did you do
I had to worry about the bills. I had to become the breadwinner of the family. I had stopped working due to the fact I went back to school. So when all that happened,
It's all right.
It's okay.
It is. I'm glad
And
we're talking
we
about
welcome your tears here.
because we talk, but
You cool. You cool. Thank you. Sound. That's all. We good. Yeah.
and that's why I could relate with you when you asked about the bitterness, because I was bitter, but then I still had to emphasize with him only because I knew he was having a mental breakdown. But was that fair for me?
right.
Because now he's gone,
Yep.
and I'm still living with it.
When you say he's gone, what do you mean?
He passed away.
Passed
I'm
away.
sorry. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Yeah. So a lot of men need to see this side, because we don't know all what our women hold. And I'll be honest, as a man, sometimes, we think everything is about us. I'll just be straight up with you, and I speak for the men that I know. Sometimes it's too much focus on us, and our women don't have the space to cry themselves.
Right.
What does a comprehensive woman look like these days? Where she could be more than strong and courageous.
And that's why our capes kind of look the same sometimes because we don't trust. I mean, can we just take it all the way back to slavery, what they did to the men in front of us, so that we would just be like, okay, we ain't depending on him because I know they're going to kill him. So we stepped up and we took care of everything, the kids, the house, the bills, just in case you're not there. And then the way the system,
when you think about just welfare and everything, how you couldn't even have a man's shoes in the house.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, just the psychological warfare that had taken place on the black family.
Correct.
So with that even being said, we still, like again, I said in the documentary, we wear trauma like a badge of honor,
Right.
as a people.
Right.
So even what you went through, supporting your husband, supporting the family rather, you wore that like honor, not like this isn't right. And until we shift from like, just because my home wasn't functional doesn't mean this is family.
Right.
Just because my father or my mother stepped out doesn't mean that's marriage. Like, this is not acceptable. And so, as men, I'm encourage men, and I'm glad we're having this conversation as we're healing. It's like, hey, thank you for giving me your ear. Now I want to hear what you got.
Yeah.
And I think that's really missing from this journey or conversation about healing, especially when you hear it for black men. Where's the women in this process? Meaning, we want you guys to be there and hear our hearts.
Right.
But as in counseling, when we go to psychotherapy, for our marriage, neither of us can just talk the whole session unless
Right.
we're focused on that individual getting healed that session.
Yeah.
And so in marriage or in a relationship, it's like, okay, thanks, babe. I cry in front of you. I'm here now for you to cry in front of me. And you needed to cry today.
You did.
And so we got to understand too, tears release stress hormones. That's why you typically feel a little better after you cry. So when you hold all that in, you wonder why you just snap at the slightest thing. And so women, I'll be honest with you, man, it's I don't see a lot of women crying.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
I don't see women crying.
Right.
Yeah. And so my brothers, regardless of your ethnicity, that's something we all need to talk about, is like, why can't our women cry? Why don't they feel safe crying in front of us? Yes, we as men, we should be able to be transparent and vulnerable to you. But flip side, you should be able to have the same safe space with us, especially when we consider creation. As I'm a man of the Most High, I never forgot when the pastor said, the Most High, when he created Adam, he gave him a responsibility. When he created Eve, he gave her a relationship.
Wow.
So her whole existence is based on being in relationship with Adam or that man. But here it is, it seems like, especially, I mean, if you go back in history what all women had to deal with, she doesn't have the room
Right.
to even be human at times,
Right.
to drop her guard. You talked about the single mom.
Have time.
Yeah, my mother had a nervous breakdown in front of me because of all the trauma she would hold in. What would you like? What would a safe space look like for you as a woman with your husband or the men in your life? What would that look like where you can drop your guard? What would that space look like for a man to say, hey, I'm here? What would that look like?
Security for him, because he would have to just be a good man. I don't want a man that's a good man for me. I want him to be good for him. I think he can receive me better. He's already there for me. I don't think it's as much of a struggle when a man is secure in who he is personally. He got his own, not he don't have issues or anything, but when he's secure as a man, I think it's easier for him to embrace what I'm going through. It's almost like I don't want to say he's supposed to, but kind of.
You know how I know you're a servant? I asked you a question specifically for you.
Can't help it.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'm talking about you. Forget him and where he is. Clearly, he got to be at a certain space anyway to say, hey, you lost your brother. Let's talk.
Right.
You've had how many tragic deaths? Like, I'm seriously, how many has it been like in just the last 5 years?
We lost.
Tell me just what.
Lost my nephew 2 months later. Her daughter, my brother's daughter, my niece. 2 months later, my grandson. 5 months later, my brother. 5 months later, my other brother. 3 months later, my niece went missing. I don't know, and it still ain't stopped. But that's the real close.
That's 8.
Yes.
That's when I counted.
Yeah.
That's within, you say 5 years?
Then Pontus, we just lost.
Yeah. So 9, and you say 5 years, right?
Yeah, at least. Yeah,
You can't hold that, sis.
I know.
Yeah, and you can only be so strong. Now, you're always there for everyone else.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, seriously.
I know. They tell me all the time.
Yeah. All the time. That's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Because you feel inside that dropping that, you're vulnerable now and you've been hurt enough. But you know you can't find healing until you drop that.
Right.
Because your heart is guarded.
It is.
Yeah. So again, I'm asking you, just say so for me as your brother.
Right.
What would you need from me? Or if you met that guy, don't think, just respond. What would you need for you to say, here is my heart? And you know you got to release this.
A real ear. Sometimes you just want to talk. You don't even want no advice. I don't want you to analyze. I don't want you to tell me, well, you know, I lost my grandmother and my cousin. I don't want that back. Not that I don't care. Sometimes just the ear, and that's big. The ear and the shoulder are huge for me.
Do you have that safe space with a man?
No, I don't.
The fact that you don't is a bad look on the men in the village. Not even someone you're attracted to, but just a brother. Not even me. Like when you text me to pray for you, I told Nicole, remember? I said, something must be going on with my sis. God, I can count how many times you've texted me to pray for you. So I apologize for not being there the same way you look at me in my eyes.
I know.
Yeah. And I mean, no, look at me in my eyes. I apologize for not being there like you've been there for me and our family. All right? And I'm sorry for that. And I mean that.
And you know I got a but okay.
I don't, yeah,
I know.
I don't,
That's
it
why I
ain't
didn't say
it ain't, yeah. So it's
I know.
about you, okay?
Okay.
Me and Nicole love you. And you've been through a lot. And we want to be there because it's a lot. All right? And you need that space.
It's hard for women to heal.
You say it's hard for women to heal.
Even attempting.
Come next to light. You saying a lot. Come here.
It's just attempting to find that man because my guard is up.
Because of all your tragedies, it's hard for you to grieve.
So, and I was married to her husband, to her brother. And once he left, she had to tell me, she was like, you have to let go. He's not coming back. He's not coming back. And I'm looking at her like, are you crazy? So I still keep my guard up and not even think about relationships. Or if someone's talking to me, I'm like a deer in the headlight, like, what? So that's it. And you always you keep your guard up. And you don't know who you can trust. And when you're so used to being with that one person and he knows everything, and then will I ever be able to be safe or feel comfort with someone else the way I did with him? Because we was ride or die together, you know. And to be able to open myself up to someone else the way that I did with him. And then sometimes I think, oh my God, like if I get with somebody, or am I going to lose them too? And so should I just not even attempt to even go that route again? Just leave it alone. I'm good with me and my boys and my girls.
One thing you may just have to just like really just say, just realize is that you're not going to replace him. Nope. That's one thing. Once you can like have that in your heart, it'll always be hard to find anyone else when you think of trying to replace that, your husband. He was unique. I lost my best friend in 2004. And for years, I would try to replace him. And you were in town when he passed of a heart attack. When I realized that I couldn't replace him, I started being okay with the relationships that were around me. And I read in the scriptures when Jonathan was killed with Saul, Most High didn't give David another Jonathan. Never again. He didn't have a best friend like that. As long as you're trying to replace him, no one would measure up. So as long as you're there, you can't even receive that. I tell men that all the time, especially like in martial arts, you're doing you're grappling with someone and you don't want them to tap you out. And you get hold of their arm like, man, I could arm lock him right now. And you just stay with that one technique and you really don't have them. And you miss, because you're stuck here thinking about this one thing, you miss all the other ways you could have tapped him out. And so where you are, which makes sense, you're grieving. So you're still holding on. It's like you'll see the wife of a soldier crying at the gravesite, won't leave. Or the movie The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't until there was a certain place right in her life where she could let go and that ring fell out of her hand. And that's what you have to get, sis. He's gone. You will see him again. But you can't replace him. I just believe it as both men and women, we have to do a better job at having or empathizing with each other. Yeah. We don't give each other room to heal. And so that's it's just a lot to unpack, but thank you for making time to talk. I always appreciate it.
Always.